And I'll go ahead. So, thanks guys for showing up today. We have Nick Hurt with us for our masterclass today. Um, just a heads up, as we're doing this, we're going to leave the cameras on for the people that are doing the masterclass, so the teacher and the player, and then everyone else's camera's going to be off. Looks like everyone's good with that. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. Let us know. I'll try my best to get them to Nick as we are going on, and he'll have a short presentation about practicing a specific piece, but you can use those concepts when you're working on other stuff. We had Nick last time, but we're going to go ahead and read his bio one more time. Nick Hart grew up in Austin, Texas, swimming in Barton Springs and playing a Stratocaster. As a kid, Nick played in bands that gigged around Austin and old venues that are now just fond memories. He also drove around the country in a van and made albums for Atlantic Records and playing in traffic that words always trip me up. Records with his band Speak. For college, Nick focused on the classical guitar and classical music at the University of Texas. Recently, Nick completed his master's at UT Austin with his thesis work focusing on creating teaching methods for the 5 Villalobos preludes. Nick now lives in California, right?
Yeah, now I live in California. I used to live in Marfa.
Yeah. And teaches guitar and hosts a classical show on Marfa Public Radio called Intune.
I still host that show.
Oh, you still do it? Okay,
Oh
good.
yeah,
Awesome.
just do it remotely now.
Cool.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and thank you everybody for being here. It's a pleasure to see some of you guys again, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone's 2021 is starting out as well as it can, considering the circumstances. Okay, cool. Raul, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
How are you, Raul?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Give me one sec. I'm going to put my headphones in just to hear you play.
Yes, sir.
And while they're getting situated, Raul's going to be playing Fading Colors by Andrew York. So just want to let everyone know that.
All right, Raul, whenever you're ready.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I messed up at the end there.
Raul, that's great. No worries. Can you hop back in? Um, how about what is that? I can't see the measure number, but it's like the third to last measure on the second to last line. Do you
Yes,
know
sir.
where I'm at?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Raul, that will do. I'm going to take my headphones off because I got to hear your guitar. Okay, can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, awesome. Awesome job, Raul. Really good playing. How long have you worked on this piece?
Um, when did I start this piece? Was it end of November? I think around there. End of
Okay.
November, earlier December.
Okay, so it's a pretty new piece for you then.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, really nice work. Okay, I have to ask before we go any further, what are all those things behind you?
Oh, oh, these things behind
All,
me.
all Star Wars figurines?
Yes, sir. I'm a big Star Wars fan, especially clones.
That is awesome. It's like got to be 100 of them back there.
Probably.
Okay, that is great. Great, great, great. Okay, so a lot of really good things. I put my headphones on so I could hear a little bit better the quality of your
Mhm.
guitar sound, and it sounds like you're getting a really pretty nice sound out of your guitar. So we're not going to talk about that too much. And the way you're holding your body and the way your hands are working all looks really really good for where you're at right now. So you're doing great work with Paul. Keep that stuff up. But we're going to talk more about musical things rather than physical things because you're getting a
Mhm.
good sound out of your guitar, and you're using your body well. Um, Okay, so first things first, Paul. Do I have the ability to share a screen? Let's see here. Will you give me the permission to share my screen? Is that possible?
Let's see. I'll just
I
make you
think
host.
there's some option to do that. Okay, now I'm just host now. Here we go. Boom. Okay. So here's the music, so everyone can sort of see as we're talking about this. All right. First things first. A really good way to start with really any piece when you're thinking about music and interpretation is a few things. When it was written, the composer, and the title. So, can you tell me all three of those things?
Um, Personally, I don't know when Fading Colors was made. All I can really say is that I know that it was made 2000s, probably like maybe I don't know 2010ish area, probably
Yeah, you
around
don't
there.
need to be specific, but that's completely yeah. So it's a contemporary work. It's like a new piece.
Right. It's
Andrew, you
not
worked with it.
classical. Classical.
Yeah, it's not like it's 200 years old, right?
Right.
Okay, continue.
Andrew York. He's he is a musician and a composer. And I can't remember where he's from, but he's made a lot of pieces in this kind of style. He's not really like a rock or big kind of heavy musical musician. He's more into these like slower, more peaceful, tranquil, or deeper songs, I guess you could say.
Good.
Um,
Last thing, fading colors.
Fading Colors. Judging from the title, I guess you could say, well, it's not just simply colors fading, but I guess you can take fading colors as an interpretation of something else. Like in this case, a color, like colors that were maybe bright at first are starting to fade away into like maybe you can interpret that from like a very kind of like maybe a story you could say. A person who started out in like maybe the Middle Ages and then as time goes on just slowly kind of starts to fade away from life, I suppose.
Wow,
It's
that,
darker for sure.
that is awesome. That's great, bro. Is this something that you have you talked about these kinds of things with Paul? Because it sounded like you had that, like you already thought about that a little bit.
We've talked about things like this before. Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Well, that's awesome. So you have a lot of ammunition to kind of get digging into this. Maybe I don't. Let's see. Is there another word that I can use besides ammunition? Because it doesn't need to be so militaristic.
Hmm.
You've got a lot of tools in your tool shed. Okay. So let's talk about. I want to talk specifically about the title a little bit, fading colors, and how can we bring that into our playing? And maybe let's do it just for this first little bit of music. So can I hear ta da ti ta ta da ti ta ta da ti ta. Just that much. So that's just
Yes, sir.
from one to pick up until measure 3.
Yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
Okay, great. Now I think we can make that fade a little bit more by having a little bit of phrasing. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of going forward with our energy and then coming backwards with our energy. So if you listen to me, I'm going to push forward. Sorry. Ti da ti da 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 ti da. And now I'm going to start pushing back or pulling back. Ta da ti da. Especially here. Ta ti. So if you have a pencil,
Let me get one.
what I would do
Pencil.
is I would draw a little arrow. Ta da ti ta ta da ti ta. Like so. Oh, it just turned it into a line. Oh no, it turned into an arrow. Good. So pushing forward, and then ta da ta ta ti ta. That goes backwards. Ti da ti da ti ta ta da ti ta ta da ti da ti da ti da. Can I hear you play that, Raul?
Yes, sir. There you go.
Nice. Can you tune your A up? Make it a little sharper. I think it's a little flat. Good. Yeah, that was great. Exaggerate that even more, Raul, especially at this part. You know, it's like we're really fading there. Imagine that. Um, can you tell me what color does this make you think of?
I'm thinking probably darker colors, cooler colors, like
Okay,
maybe darker shades of green and blue, black, purple, dark shades of purple,
beautiful. Pick one. Pick one.
dark blue.
Okay, dark blue. That's beautiful. Okay, so what I want you to imagine is this beautiful dark blue, and it's lightening up. It's becoming more vibrant. It's like it's as if it's a blue light bulb and someone's turning it up, turning it on, and that's happening through this. Ti da ti, getting brighter. Da da ti da 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 ti. That's probably the brightest point right there. Ti da pi da. And then for that last sort of measure, someone's gotten then they're turning the fader down on that light. Okay, let me hear that. That was pretty nice. Can you do that again? Oh, here I'm gonna admit Leon. Can you do that again? Yeah, can you just do that one more time,
Yes,
Raul?
sir.
Yeah, but I want even more. Tee da tee ta tee ta. More of a fade, more of a decrescendo. In fact, can you sing this for me? I know sometimes singing is not everyone's favorite thing to do, but you don't need to sing perfectly. I just want to sort of hear it coming out of your voice instead of out of your guitar. So I'll show you what I mean.
Mhm.
Da da. Or you can sing the notes if you want. A C B A C D A B C A G A. Or you can just do this. Ta da ti da ta da ti da ta da ti da dum dum. Whichever one you want, Raul.
Yes, sir.
Nice, nice. Now hear that in your head as you play on the guitar. I mean that A. I mean it's quiet. We've turned the lights almost completely off.
Yes, sir.
Good. That is the right direction, Raul. Very, very nice. Okay, we're gonna move on because we only have a few minutes left, which is crazy. These things go by like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you, so the guitar does some things really well.
Mm-hmm.
It does some things not so well, unfortunately. That's just how it works. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing the guitar does really well is color
Mm-hmm.
or timbre or just the different kind of quality of sound you can get from playing the exact same notes in different parts of the guitar. Basically, you're plucking from different parts of the string. And when I heard you play this all the way through, there's so many things I liked about it. But one of the first things I thought of was, wow, you could get so much more, Raul, if you could get so much more music out of this if
Mm-hmm.
you adjusted where you're playing with the right hand. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So if this first phrase, if you're playing kind of here, or like right over the rosette, which is great, da da ti da da ti da 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 ti da ti da da ti da 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 ti da da ti. Did you see what I did there, Raul?
Yes, sir. You
I
moved
moved
your
my hand a little bit for the second phrase from over the rosette, and I didn't go too far over here. It wasn't like I was suddenly Julian Bream, but I made it more ponticello, a kind of a brighter sound.
Mm-hmm.
So can you please play for me that second phrase, starting on measure 1, 2, 3, 4, pick up to measure 5. So sorry, T da T da 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 T da 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 T da da T. But give me a little bit of a ponticello tone.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think you're emulating something that I did that is not actually written because oh no, never mind. You're doing a great job. Well, I'm wrong. Okay, that's the right idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that you might need to practice this a little bit because it kind of it seems to me like it's a little bit of a challenge to play
Mm-hmm.
in this with your hand in this position. Is that correct?
Uh, I've really been playing a little more, trying to go a little more this way up the neck of the guitar. I haven't really played down here before. In this song, rather, in this song.
Okay. No, that's cool. I mean, so what all that is to say is just that, this might take some practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that and here's another thing. I mean, you can do a different direction if you want. If you don't like this and you talk to Paul about it next week and he says, "Well, all Nick really wants is for you to change color there." So you could go from here. This is the beginning. And now you can get darker. I like it the other way a little bit more, but this is to say that there's different options. There's lots of different options. But I want you to do, while you have your pencil handy, write a little phrase marking. Write a little phrase marking at the beginning of this phrase right here. Ta da ti ta da ti ta da ti ta tom pom. That's one phrase. And then we begin this next phrase. Ta ta ti ta da ta da ta ti ta tom. And that ends over here.
Yes, sir.
And what you need to write for the second phrase is you need to write color. This looks like I'm a little child. You don't need to write it that big. But write color, right over Andrew York, okay? Because that means I want you to change the color in some way for that second phrase. And what I think you should do is play Ponticello. And Ponticello means you get closer to the bridge. Okay, one other thing to do, and I'm probably going to run out of time in just a couple minutes here. Actually, you know what? Before we get to this, Raul, I want to hear one time you playing the first two phrases of this. So from the very beginning of the piece to measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I want to hear that change in tone. And give me that fade too.
Yes, sir. No.
Beautiful. Okay, so that needs work, of course. It's
Right.
something that you're going to need to practice, but that was beautiful. Suddenly, your playing has just completely opened up for me, to my ears. And now we're not just hearing the same thing from one phrase to the next, we're hearing something different. Because, I mean, this piece is about color.
Mm.
I mean, it's in the title. And he wants these colors to fade. So, one thing you can think about this piece is I would explore all kinds of different colors like this. Find a color in another part that's really warm, and every time have it fading out. And you picked that beautiful color for the first phrase. You picked a dark blue. Maybe you can think of actual colors and think about, well, what's that second phrase? Maybe it's like it's a little tinnier, maybe a little more metallic. So maybe it's going to go from a dark blue that's lighting up and then fading to like I don't know, a metal gray that's lighting up. and fading. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think we're going to have to go on. I think I'm going to stop it there, even though we could keep talking about this all day.
Mm-hmm.
But Raul, very good playing. Do you have any quick questions for me before we move on to Leon?
Um, no, sir.
Okay, go through this whole piece, pick out every single phrase with Paul, and figure out a different color for each phrase. And you can repeat. You can come back to a different color. You can come back to a color later on, but have a different color and a different part of the guitar that you're playing, part of the string that you're playing for each phrase.
Yes, sir.
All right, wonderful work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Leon, you still there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Hey, what's up? How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good to see you. So, I think you weren't here for the very beginning, but I was saying that I have a little lecture planned, and it happens to be about the piece that you're playing, because you're playing the Aguado Etude 1, right?
Yes, that's right.
So I'm just going to talk. I'm going to try to keep it short because I think we're already running a little late. I'm going to keep it short, but I want to just talk just a little bit about this method I've made for this etude and just practicing in general. Okay? So
Okay.
you just hang out there and listen on with everybody else, and then I'm going to have you play it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So here is the piece that Leon's about to play. So I want everyone to look at this just for a minute. And I'm going to ask a question that I love to ask, which is, how are you going to go about learning this? And I'm actually asking you guys this. So Leon, whoever else, Raul, Miguel, whoever else wants to answer this, just jump in, unmute yourself, and give me an answer. So the question again is, how are you going to learn this? What steps are you going to take to learn this piece?
Well, someone typed in chat. Yeah, I was thinking of chords as well, but I was thinking it would probably be a good idea just to have the melody line and
What is the
just
melody
another
line for
melody
this
line.
piece?
It would, in this case, be the bass note for every chord. So
Great. Okay, so what I'm hearing from Leon is melody, bass, which is also kind of the bass for this piece, and then somebody in the chat said block chords, right? Or just chords. Awesome.
yeah, I think
Anything
so.
else? Well, I'll tell you this. Look, there's a whole bunch of notes for you guys right here. That's a joke. I don't expect anyone to read the Japanese. I don't even know what that says. Okay. So this question of how am I going to go about learning something, I think, is very important, and everyone should ask it at every stage. You have to ask it when you're playing advanced music, because otherwise you're just going to get your butt kicked. But even with these etudes, I mean, maybe most importantly with these etudes, it's a really good thing to ask these questions. How am I going to learn this? If you just start with the first note and then go from there, and you guys probably know this from experience, you're going to be in trouble, right? It's not the most efficient way to learn. So I've made a method just for this piece. Can everyone see this okay? I guess, Leon, you're speaking for everyone. Can you see this okay?
Yeah, I can
Okay,
see
sweet.
it.
So what I've done is I've broken this whole thing apart. And it's a fairly simple piece, so I've broken it apart into some fairly simple elements. Leon, you totally nailed it with the first one, bass alone. You know, you can play this whole piece. can play it bass alone. And you should play it bass alone. And so in my little method, I've kind of got this split up, actually removed from the music so that the student can just look right at that and focus only in on that. And then there's a place to set some goals. Like maybe we can set a goal of using the thumb very efficiently, or getting a nice full tone, or phrasing, having some sort of dynamic contrast, anything you could think of. And then there's also a section for comments. That's more for the teacher to kind of give their advice. Now, whoever said this in the chat was right on for the second thing that I think a student should look at. Oh, let me back up a little bit. This is just my take on things. I just want to sort of say that first and foremost. There's no correct way to do this. There's no only one way that's right. This is just the way I would approach it. So I just want to say that any way that any teacher is going to do this, just so long as they're breaking it apart, I'm all for it. This is just the way I did it. So next we have block chords. So what a block chord is we've taken the arpeggio, we've snapped it all on top of itself. And in this method, I've written it all out. So it's very easy for a student to learn. And again, there's space for goals. Maybe the goal is to play P, I, and M all at the exact same instant, which is easier said than done. Next, I've made a series of variations out of this. So even once we've done bass alone, and once we've done the block chords, we're not going to dive right in, because there's lots of other things we can do. And one of them is a P-I-M variation. So P-I-M. P-I-M, 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 P. So this basically uses the block chords that we just learned, but now we've got a variation on what we're going to do with our right hand. And a goal for this section could be to focus on maybe bringing out the thumb and having the fingers be a little more quiet. You could think of a million others, probably. Maybe not a million. You could think of a dozen others. Another variation before we get to the final piece is PIM. So now the final arpeggio is PIMI. This is a little easier. So PIM, 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 PIM. It's starting to sound like the piece, right?
Yeah.
And so, but here, there's tons of things we can still work on. We can practice PIM arpeggio by itself, right hand alone. I mean, gosh. Do we use PIM a lot in this repertoire, in the classical guitar repertoire? Yes, we do. I mean, all the time. So why not practice the heck out of it, just right hand alone? And then finally, we get to Etude number 1 is written. So we've spent, like, I've got a student, I don't know if he's here today. I told him to try to come if he can. I've had a student who learned this using this method, and it probably took us maybe 4 to 6 weeks before we actually got to this. And so the craziest thing about doing something like this as somebody who's learning or as a teacher who's teaching is the easiest stage. My student's name was Jaden. The easiest stage for Jaden was the last one, because he had put in all this work learning the bass alone, learning the block chords, using those block chords in a PIM, PIM pattern, using those block chords in a PIM, PIM pattern. And then when it learn the actual arpeggio, PIMI, PIMI, it was a breeze. Maybe not a breeze, but it was the easiest part for him. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit for everybody, because I think that asking these questions, how am I going to learn this piece? What am I going to do? Really, what am I going to do? Like very concrete things, like I'm going to play bass alone. I'm going to play block chords. I'm going to practice the arpeggio by itself, are questions that everyone needs to be asking. And especially when you're a student, you need to be asking it. and getting really creative. Don't just rely on your teacher to tell you what to do. Think of your own ideas of how to take something apart and then put it back together. And I will. Oh, actually, there's one last thing that I did here that I kind of like, because I got to use this funny picture of Aguado. So, if this were to be worked on by a student of mine, I would have the student write a bunch of notes on Aguado. When did he live? What was his story? Where did he live? Tell me some interesting things about him. You know, all the sort of things that we like to know about a composer that gives us a richer sense of their music. Okay, anyway, so what we're going to do, thank you for listening to that. I hope that was helpful for you guys a little bit. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of stuff that you already are thinking about. But let's listen to Leon play now, and let's see if there's anything. There might not be. He might be, you know, beyond all of this stuff. But we'll see if there's anything that we can kind of go back to in this method to make the playing a little bit cleaner in any way. Okay, Leon, give me 1 second. I'm going to put my headphones in so I can hear your playing a little bit clearer. Okay, man, I am ready to go.
Okay.
Hey, Leon, is there any way you could scooch back just a little bit so I can see your right hand?
Sure. How's that?
That looks good.
Okay.
Okay, nice. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Great playing, Leon. It's great to see you play again. I'm going to take my headphones out because I kind of hate headphones. I only want to wear them a little bit. Okay, nice. Okay. I'm going to ask you to play the whole thing again.
Okay. Okay.
But first, I want you to take a minute, and I really mean a minute, and a minute's longer than you think. Take a minute and just take a couple breaths, and really, this kind of thing is kind of annoying to talk about. It's annoying to talk about relaxing or centering yourself when you're in the middle of something like this, when you're kind of on,
Right.
you know, it's hard to do. But just spend a minute, and I really mean a minute, which, you know, so it might feel a little long to you.
Okay.
And just take a few breaths, and just, even if you don't fully get there, have the goal to be to just center yourself and then play. And you can play the whole thing again. Okay, nice. Now, it wasn't like everything, any, what's the word I'm looking for? Nervousness just like completely evaporated. But I hope that felt a little bit better. And I wanted to say to you, Leon, and to everybody that's watching this, when you're on stage and when you're about to play for somebody, if it's a jury, if it's a concert, if it's just your parents, or your grandparents, it's your time, and I really encourage everybody to take all the time that they need. Okay, and I think that a lot of people sit down and they pick up their instrument and they feel like they gotta just go, bam, and I think that that's not true. We've got a lot of time. This is your space, and you're sort of taking charge of it. And if you need to take a minute, that's totally cool. It makes people, if anything, it just makes people more interested, which we want. Okay. Nice. Now, I want to talk about using all of the tools that we have available to us. I don't know if you heard much of the lesson with Raul, but one of the things that we talked about was he had a lot of tools. He was able to talk about a lot of tools musically. Like he was able to think about the composer. He could tell me a little bit about the composer. He could tell me a little bit about the title. He knew when the piece was written. So he had all of these different tools to sort of start interpreting the music. And that's what we did for the rest of the lesson, is we used those tools that he listed, and we started to interpret the music.
Okay.
I want to talk about a different set of tools for you, Leon. It's not necessarily understanding the composer and all that stuff, but that's very important. It's just our physical body. What do we have available to us? And specifically, our eyes.
All right.
Our eyes. Now, our eyes, that's really where the world enters our brain, right?
Yeah.
We hear a lot. We hear a lot. Sure, we smell some things, and if we're eating, we taste.
Right.
But really, and we touch and we feel. But really, the world comes to us through our eyes. Okay? And I want you to use your eyes more. I saw a lot of you'd be playing and then your eyes would be looking over here, or you'd be looking even at the camera occasionally. And I want, for now at least, and this doesn't mean that you have to do this forever, this doesn't mean that you have to do this every single time that you play, but for now, I want you to use your eyes to help your left hand.
Okay.
Okay? So I want eyes on the left hand. And now, let's pick a little bit of music to do that with. Just a small section of music. And we're going to go and we're going to look at this method a little bit. And we're going to look at the block chords. Okay, so can you tell me, and if you need to look at your music, that's totally cool. Where can you pick like 4 chords that are kind of a pain in your side right now? Like what didn't feel good in that last performance?
On the third measure, this chord.
Okay.
And I actually had it really. Oh, sorry, there was some feedback, but I actually had this chord down really well yesterday, and I was able to transition to it. But I don't know. Today it was just, I don't know. It was just one of those days where I couldn't get the chord exactly how I wanted it. I'm just like, dang it.
I know that feeling. I know that. That's happened to me many times. It's like, I had this yesterday. What the heck?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's perfect, Leon. Let's do this. Let's start. You know what? Let's just play the first whole phrase. So let's do. And then we might zero in a little bit more. But can I hear just that? Block chords. Eyes on the left hand. Use your eyes as one of your tools.
Okay.
Nice. Can I hear that again? I have to say, I saw a little bit of this, Leon. I saw a little bit of this. Wah, wah. I saw your head move a little bit.
Oh, really? Okay.
So try to keep the eyes on it the whole time. Keep your focus. Keep your focus on your hand. Think about, where are my fingers moving? Great. Do that again, but do it even slower. Watch me. Very, very slow and very controlled. My fingers are moving. They're not moving slowly necessarily, but they're also not jumping. They're just going at exactly the amount of distance and exactly the speed that they need to go. Are you familiar with Tai Chi, the martial art?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Kung Fu, but everything's very slow. Imagine that you're doing Tai Chi with your hands, and watch them as they move. Go for it.
Okay.
Good. Do that again. Even slower. Even slower, Tai Chi. Good. One more time. Okay, now that's getting really that's getting where I want what I want. Let me ask you a quick question before we move on to the next thing. How does it feel?
Well, I mean, I'm able to transition a lot more smoother if I focus more on my left hand transitioning. I'm able to be more accurate or precise.
And how does it feel to be accurate and precise?
It feels more natural to me.
Hey, kitty.
Oh, hi.
Okay, good. So how does it feel for it to feel more natural?
Well, I feel like I could play the piece better.
Good.
And I could add more color into it.
Use the word. I'm trying to get you. I mean, everything you're saying is awesome, Leon. Using color and being more comfortable. Use a very simple word that a little kid would use, like good or bad.
Okay.
Does it feel? Pick one of the two. Does it feel good to be in control, or does it feel bad?
Good.
Yeah, it feels good, right?
Yeah.
At least for me, it does. And it feels good to be in control. You know, when you're driving your car, it feels good to know I'm in control of this car. You know what I mean? That's a good feeling. Really think about that feeling as we do this next step. Okay? Really think, this feels good. It feels good to be in this much control. Okay? So what we're going to do, Leon, is we're going to zoom in to just one shift. And we're going to play from there to there. So it's this. Do you see where I'm at? I'm playing this chord and then that chord. So basically we're cutting all that out. And then we're just going pa-da, because that's really where the difficulty is. Can I hear just that? Just those two chords?
Okay.
Good. Again, even slower. Think this slow. And I'm imagining my fingers moving to the next place, exactly where they're going to go. I lift, and then I just take them there. That's slow. Nice. Imagine there's like an imaginary line that's guiding the finger from where it's resting when you're playing this chord to where it's going to go when you play that chord. And imagine the shortest possible line without any whoop whoop, without any detours. So we're just going from here, and I'm going to follow the shortest possible line to there. And if you look at my fingers, they're kind of already even lining up. They're lining up for where they're going to go before I even start shifting.
Okay.
Very slowly. Hey, can you turn is original sound on for you? Because it's doing some weird stuff. I'm not hearing that super well. Hey, kitty. What's your cat's name?
Luna.
It's a nice name.
So I go into audio, advanced. Oh wait, no, that's in the upper left-hand corner.
Yeah.
Select microphone to use.
Oh boy, we're getting into the weeds now. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Leon. Work on this with Mr. Sanchez later on. Let me just hear it. I could hear you okay. So go back to this.
Okay.
Bravo. My turn. Even slower though. You're using your eyes. Good. Now use your eyes, but keep your head up still. So I still have got good posture, but I can still see it. Now be honest with me. Does that feel good? And if it doesn't feel good yet, you don't need to say yes.
Okay. No, it doesn't.
Okay, well, I want you to keep working on it until it really feels good.
Okay.
And I mean good, like the way it feels when you are playing basketball with your friends and you like hit a 3-pointer. You know that feeling? That feels good, right?
Yeah.
You're like,
You made a 2-pointer, right? Or I don't know. Like I don't know much about basketball, but
neither do I. I think there's a 3-pointer, right? Even if you're behind that line and you
yeah, I think so. I'm not sure.
Well, I probably know less about basketball. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but I know very little about basketball too. So, but you know that feeling of you're doing something and you do it well, and it's like, hell yeah, I just hit a 2-pointer. I just hit a free throw. Okay, I want it to feel like that. So make it that comfortable.
Okay.
That comfortable where you can just hit that free throw. This is your free throw. Okay? Now here's the deal. I think a lot of times we're going to have to move on in just like 1 minute, Leon, because Miguel has to play and we're already running late. Here's the deal. We often try to play way too much music. When it's time for us to practice, we think we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to play this whole piece, we got to use the arpeggio, blah, 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 blah. That's one of the reasons why I like this thing that I've made. Because look, this is the piece now. It's not a part of the piece, it's the full piece. And here is the dirty little secret, or it's not a secret, sorry, it's a weird thing to say. Here is a fundamental truth, I think, of becoming a really good guitar player, is you can spend all week, Leon, all week. Uh-oh, it's not going to let me zoom in anymore. Yes, it is. Yay! On this. All week. Seriously. Just playing palm. You're doing your Tai Chi. You're getting really good at shooting that free throw. And that's a week well spent. It's not a week wasted. It's a week well spent. And that is going to transition to other things. You're not going to have to do that for every single chord, because you're going to have to put so much attention into this chord that it kind of, you're actually doing a little bit of work on all the chords. And this is the hard chord, right? This is the one that's giving you trouble. All right, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, awesome. It's great to hear you play again, Leon.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Make it feel good. Make your practice small enough sections to where you can feel good the whole time. Practicing should be an experience of feeling good as often as you possibly can, not kicking yourself in the butt as often as you possibly can. Right? And the way we do that is we make things small. Okay, awesome. You're done, Leon. Great work. It's time for Miguel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Miguel, hey, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, so you're going to play this Prelude in A minor?
Yeah, kind of relearning the first piece on my
Oh, cool. You going back to the greatest hits?
Yeah. Do you just want me to go with it?
Yeah. Why don't you dive in? If you want to play a scale, or if you've just been If you've just been sitting there, you can warm up a little bit if you want to.
No, yeah, I've been warming up.
Oh wait, hold on. I need to put my headphones in. One sec. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. I'm going to take my headphones off. Okay, Miguel, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great playing. It was really good to hear you play again.
Thank you.
Really, really good. Is that a new guitar?
Relatively, I guess. I won it at the last guitar contest.
Yeah, sounds great. Who makes that guitar?
It's Cervantes, but it was Miguel Rodriguez one, I think.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds great. You're getting a really good sound. I can tell. I'm guessing that you and Paul have worked a lot on your tone, and you're getting a good sound out of your guitar. I just want to just check off one really quick thing before we go on, because do you have long thumbs?
Long thumb.
I know that's a weird question. But Paul, is that something that you've noticed with Miguel? Because I noticed with your left hand, your thumb is kind of coming up a little bit. I can sort of see it.
That's a habit from playing standing in mariachi for years.
Yeah, well, that's something that a lot of us do. And here's the reason why I'm asking if you have long thumbs, which I know is a weird question. It's okay for the thumb to stick up, just so long as you've got a good left hand position.
Right.
If you have a long thumb, some people's hands are bigger than others. It's silly to say, oh, there's a rule where you can never show the thumb. It can never be sticking up. Well, what if someone's got a really long hand, and there's just no way for them to not do it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I was watching your wrist, and your wrist looked good. But I still did see that thumb sticking up, so I don't know. That's just something to be aware of. Maybe you, Paul, who knows your hands a little bit better, I'm sure he talks to you about it. But does he tell you to put that thumb back there, or is he kind of okay with it?
Yeah, I do.
No, yeah. ready with that.
He was like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, it slips up every now and then.
Okay, cool. Well, let's spend seriously, like, if we can, two minutes on that or something. It doesn't need to be that long. Let's think about what we were talking about with Leon, how to learn a piece using all these different tools. And so let's think about block chords for just a second. Let me hear you play just the first two chords. block chords. Let me hear just that much, Miguel. Okay, good. One more time. I had to mute myself. I was doing some weird audio stuff.
Okay.
But change the bass. Go from low A, high A. I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Okay, good. To me that thumb looks more better.
Yeah.
Okay, so try to be aware of your thumb this lesson. But I understand. I mean, you said that you stand when you play mariachi and your thumb comes up, and I mean, hey, I've got a, where is it? Oh, it's in the other room. I've got a steel string acoustic guitar that I play a lot. And to be honest, that happens for me when I play steel string. So, but Paul is right to be on you about it when you're playing classical. We can have different identities. That's okay. You can be, or maybe I don't know. Maybe you've already talked to Paul about this, and maybe he has different opinions. And if so, you should listen to him. But it's my opinion that you can have mariachi Miguel, and you can have classical Miguel. Those two things can exist, but when you're classical Miguel, you got to do the things with our thumb.
Yeah, you gotta pay your dues by doing everything technically.
Exactly. Okay, good. All right, a couple little things here that we can talk about. One is making more music out of fairly simple music, because this piece is fairly simple, but we can make it more musical, and we should make it more musical. That's the first thing, and that's probably what we're going to spend the most time doing. But real quick, this is another great way to practice bass muting. Do you know what I mean by bass muting?
Bass muting, like dampening it? Or...
Yeah, kind of. Here, let's look at the music together. Hold on. So, so you see this first measure here? How long does that first A last? Yeah, I mean, so in theory, we're not supposed to hear it past when you play that A. Right. So that means that it needs to be pretty short. And let's hear how long that A lasts on my guitar. It's still going.
Yeah.
So that's longer than a quarter note. So I don't necessarily think that we have to mute it here, because that sounds like this. Here, hold on. I guess you can see my hand. Mute. Did you see what I was doing?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one thing. To me, that's a little bit too much. I don't think you need to do that. But here's the deal. You do need to do it when you get to this section. Because now we've moved to a different chord. So we can't have that A ringing over. Because now we're getting this chord. There's too much going on. So we need to mute. Come on, hold on. We need to mute this A, boom, right there. So this guy goes until there, and then we mute it. All right, and the way we're going to mute it is when you play this first E, you're going to rest your thumb on the A string. So what I want you to do is just play the bass alone. You know, when we were working on the thumb, left-hand thumb, we played block chords. Now we're going to play bass alone. And watch my right hand. A, 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 E. Mute. B, B. Can you play me that much? Nice. Very, very slow and controlled. Try it again. Bravo, again. Oh, look at your left-hand thumb. Nice. Okay, now try it with the full arpeggio. See how it sounds. Good. Can you try it block chords? Maybe that'll make it a little easier to mute and then move without having to worry about the arpeggio. Yeah, think rest stroke. Think rest stroke with and free stroke. Miguel, good. I'm gonna let you think about this and work on it on your own because I want to talk a little bit about music.
Okay.
But but before I do, I'm gonna give you one other piece of advice. Is if playing it rest stroke is a pain in the butt, that's okay. You can just real quick go back and prepare. So if I've got A ringing, then I can play E, a normal free stroke E, and then just mute the A.
Right.
Do you see what I did?
Yeah.
So instead of, I mean, if you can do it well, then that rest stroke is pretty handy. Because look, boom, I mute. You know, I mute without even having to think about it.
Yeah.
But if that's a pain in the butt, that's okay. You can play this, and then it becomes a lot to think about, but you can do it. Mute. It's just one thing that you got to add into your practice.
Yeah.
Now I've got a question for you. I don't know if you saw the very end of Leon's lesson, but if you do that, wait, hold on. I'm not showing my screen, am I?
No.
Here we go. If you do that, this is your music for the week.
Yeah.
You know? And maybe this week that's going to be it. But I tell you what, are you just practicing, 1.5 measures of etude in A minor?
No, it's the technique.
No, you're practicing this thing that you're going to use for the rest of your life as a guitar player. And just like Leon was practicing this a lot today, he's not just practicing that transition. He's practicing so much more. And it's the same for you for this bass stopping. So I mean, look, you can do this all over the place. Like here, that's supposed to end. Here, it's supposed to A is supposed to end. You see my screen, right, Miguel?
Yeah.
Here, these A's, they end with this D. So it's all over the place. I mean, basically, every time you go to a new measure, you have to turn that bass note off somehow. Okay? And if you wanted, you could even do it here. You see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Now, I wouldn't necessarily have to, I wouldn't do that if I were you. But if you wanted to, but that is what's written, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's technically what's written. So, I don't even know who composed this piece. Maybe,
David Brandon.
yeah, maybe you can call up David Brandon and say, hey, for your prelude in A minor, did you want those bass notes to ring over? I'm just kidding. You don't actually call him. Okay. So I want you to think about that, okay, Miguel? Because this is a wonderful thing about going back. You said a minute ago that you're going back to the first piece that you worked on with Paul, right?
Yeah.
So this is a wonderful thing that we can do when we go back. I'm going backwards with a lot of my music. I'm learning a bunch of Brauer etudes that I learned, 10 years ago or something. But man, am I doing more with them. When you were playing this piece for the first time, you were probably thinking about all these other different things, like just how to make a good tone, just how to hold your left hand. We're still thinking about some of those things, of course. But now, we've got a new goal, which is stopping the bass notes. Okay? Okay, now, unfortunately, we're already getting close to being done, which is such a bummer. But let's just talk about music a little bit. So this is a simple piece, right? I mean, this probably feels pretty simple compared to, I don't know, the Brauer etudes that you've worked on and some of the other pieces you've worked on, right?
Yeah.
But just because it's simple doesn't mean that it can't be beautiful and can't have some beautiful music in it. So let's hear just the last measure of before the fine, or I'm sorry, the measure of the fine. So that's just measure what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Measure 8. So. So tell me, Miguel, what can you do musically to make that feel like a fine?
Retardando.
Awesome. What else?
You could also crescendo and stop abruptly.
Crescendo and then stopping abruptly with a retardando?
I would not add retardando.
All right, I'm going to be. If we had more time, we would do. We try out all these options. We don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to tell you. I like where your head's at, and I like that you're thinking very creatively. But I just don't think for this particular piece it's going to make sense to crescendo and end abruptly. To me, this is a very standard kind of classical piece. There should be a day crescendo. And there should be, I think you're absolutely right, there should be it's not going to let me write, oh, come on. Let me write retardando. There should be a rit. Period. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so write that in your music and do the same thing here. Day crescendo, ugly retardando. Okay, can you play me just this measure? Just this one measure. Beautiful, much better. Again. Nice. Now fix your left-hand thumb. Good. Play that for me 2 more times and exaggerate it even more. Make that last A almost inaudible, and maybe move your right hand. You know, so you do. Maybe the last one is very warm. Ritardando decrescendo. Let me hear that. Try that again. More ritardando. Po ta po ta. Yes, good. Now play me the first 2 lines, and when you get to this part, make it sound like that.
Okay.
Okay, that was better. I kind of threw you into the deep water with that, because really what we should have done, if you were practicing, maybe just add 1 extra measure. But can you hear how even just that little thing, making a ritardando and a good decrescendo, how much that makes, I mean, for me, more effective?
Yeah.
Do you hear the difference?
Yes. Definitely.
I mean, these things exist for a reason. Decrescendos, retardandos, crescendos. I mean, these are the simplest things that we could do, you know?
Yeah.
But they exist for a reason, because they are super effective. The simplest things are sometimes the most super effective things.
Yeah.
Just like sometimes eating the simplest food is like the thing that you like the most, you know?
Bread and butter.
Oh man, I mean, how can you beat bread and butter? Good, especially if it's good bread and good butter. Oh my god, you can't beat that. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna have to start wrapping up, Miguel, because we're already 15 minutes late, and I know it's kind of late for you guys. But what I want you to do is right after this call ends, go through your music and write this stuff in. Write all of these lines and then ends, line, end, line, end, line, end, okay? It's going to take you some time to work on this bass thing. You're not going to be able to play the whole first phrase. I mean, you're going to have to play going from one measure to the next, and then repeating that.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to have to do block chords. You're probably going to have to do a bass alone.
Yeah.
Okay? And then make sure you write in these musical things. Ritardando, decrescendo. And here's the really tricky part. Once you write it in, you gotta really do it. Just writing it in the music isn't enough. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. You're rocking. You're getting a really good sound out of your guitar, and your right hand looks way more comfortable than when I saw it last week. Not last week. Last class. Maybe that was 4 or 5 months ago.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're making some really good progress. Yeah, I want to just real quick say to you something I said to Leon. Whenever you're practicing something, make it feel good. Pick a small enough amount of music to where it feels good to do it. It doesn't feel hard. It doesn't make you want to throw your guitar out the window. It feels good. Just like hitting a free throw. Nothing but net. Okay, Miguel, unless you have any questions, I'm going to open it up to everybody. If anyone else has any questions, whoever is here, feel free to ask away.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You got it, Miguel. You're playing well. Keep up the good work.
Sure.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions about the method stuff I was talking about for that Etude 1? Any questions about life in general? Is everyone doing okay? How's everyone's semester started?
I'm doing good.
Yay, good. Leon's doing good.
Jaden, do you have any questions?
Nothing. Honestly, I was kind of enjoying watching you play and thinking about how important techniques kind of are in that sense. Because I have an issue with kind of applying some sort of dynamic to my playing, so I kind of like seeing how people kind of adapt to that. And yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm really glad that you got some good stuff out of this experience watching. That's awesome to hear.
No questions? No, nothing you guys want tips on? How to memorize music or strings that he plays, guitar?
Yeah. What? Let's see. Would you have, probably, take my piece for example. What ideas or any pointers that you would have to better? I would say use chunking. Use chunking to have the piece better in memory, or just to better memorize the piece in general.
Did you say use chunking?
Yes.
Like CHUNKING, chunking?
Yes.
And by that, do you mean like finding a small piece of music and then practicing that chunk?
More of like, I don't know. Or it would be you would be able to use, or you'd be able to memorize things in blocks, I guess you would say. Yeah. Or I guess, I don't know, I guess maybe I just would have to look at or focus more on chunking actually, because I think that actually explains what I need to do. But I don't know. I would just basically I would know commonly played chords, or I would figure out chords that are played commonly, and I would just make sure I know that very well, and I would know when to play those chords. And not just that, but like I would also make sure I would know phrases, I think. And instead of knowing the entire piece, I guess I would just, if a certain phrase comes up, I could just I don't know, I could just activate that, or that memory that I have, and just let that memory play that phrase for me instead of.
Yeah, go. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. Finish that thought. Instead of what?
Instead of knowing everything individually, I would know. I would just know things in certain blocks, and I would think, oh, well, this block is played at the very beginning, but it's also played near the end, I guess.
Okay, good. I think a lot of what you said, I am right on with, and I'll give you just a little bit more insight, but I think that you've got the right idea. You've got the right ideas for sure. So memorization, it's a huge thing, right? It's one thing to read music, it's another thing to memorize it. Ideally, we can kind of do both well. Because if we're just focusing on reading and our eyes are always on the music, then some things can kind of get a little iffy. You know, we're not paying attention to our hands. We might not actually be thinking about the music as much as we should, because we're just looking at the notes. But if we're relying completely on our memory and we forget what to do next, we're out of luck. So it's kind of this combination of things. Here's what I'll say. I mean, it's a huge topic. Great question, but huge topic, and I'll probably only touch a tiny little bit of it right now. But that's okay. We'll at least try. So, what you said a minute ago of chunks, I think that's a really good thing. Just break it apart. And don't feel like you have to learn the whole darn thing. Learn and memorize one chunk. Now, how big is a chunk? I always try to get my students to play chunks that are way smaller than they think. You know, they think, a lot of times a student will think of a chunk and they'll think, okay, here's the first measure. That's it. I'm sorry, the first line. That's my chunk. No, I don't want your first chunk to be the first line. I want it to be the first measure, or maybe even just the first half of the first measure. How's that for a chunk? And then maybe you can build the chunk from there, and suddenly your chunk is not that small, it's a little bit bigger. But think small. The second thing I would say is you brought up a really good point of using some of your skills that you know from other styles of music. Like, you know, oh, this looks like a lot like a C major chord. Is this a C major chord? Oh, I know a C major chord. Look, ta-da! There's my C major chord.
Yeah.
Write that in. You know, put that in your music. C major. Yay! You know, don't be afraid to write in your music, and use any of these things that are your friends. You know, if you play, Miguel, if you play a chord progression in a piece that's very similar to a mariachi progression, that's a good thing. You know, and utilize that knowledge that you already have in your hands, and make it work for you for memorization, and write it in to your music. The other thing that I will say about memorization is to break things into chunks. What I have my students do sometimes is literally get their music, get a second photocopy of it, get some scissors, and cut the music apart. So what I would do for this piece specifically is I would have my student cut this out, that top part, and then cut this out, that bottom part. All right? And so, Leon, you've worked on this piece. What did I just do?
You separated the piece into phrases. Or you separated them into from A to B, and then A is at the end.
Exactly, yeah. I think a phrase would be a little shorter, and you know, you could do that. You could cut just the phrase out, just this little guy. You know, because I think this is probably what I would call a phrase. Oh, sorry, I draw the wrong line. It would end here. So, you know, ti ta ti ta ta ti. Cut that out of your music. Put it someplace, and then you got the second phrase, ti ta ti ta ti ti ta. don't do it on the copy that you're working on with Mr. Sanchez, but get a second photocopy and cut that out. Or do what we were just talking about. You said you got the A section. That's supposed to be an A. A section. B section. Oh, come on. A section. Okay, well, suddenly this piece is a lot less complicated, isn't it? Because look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 measures is repeated. So now instead of it being, what's 16 plus 8? 24 measure piece, it's a 16 measure piece that has a repeated section. And you can also see that there's some of these sections, some of this stuff is the same as it is in the A section. So just definitely make sure that you are looking at the piece holistically. Look at it like a strategic document, not just a bunch of notes. It's a strategic thing. When I was younger, I don't do this as much anymore. I probably should, but in my guitar bag I had Sharpies, I had highlighters, I had colored pencils, I had all kinds of things, and my music looked like a mess. But that's because I was separating everything into these little units. Okay, and that helped my mind to memorize. And then the last thing I'll say about memory, Leon, is kind of going back to your lesson and some of the things that we talked about with Miguel as well, which is give yourself, your body and your mind, enough to work on that feels good. And you will memorize that. Because it's a very small amount. So, to me, if you do that, if you just practice in units that feel good. Okay, that's enough for me for the rest of the day. I'm going to play that bass alone. I'm going to play that block chord. I'm going to play that P-I-M alternation. Now I'm going to play P-I-M. Now I'm going to play with a full arpeggio. Each one of those steps felt good for me. I felt comfortable. I felt like I knew what I was doing. Everything felt like a nothing but net free throw. I can't say that for some reason. Free throw. I'm going to memorize that.
Okay.
It's just going to happen. Because it's a small enough chunk to where I'm going to have it. And then give it a name maybe. Maybe this is the first half of the first phrase. Give it a title. That's the first half of the first phrase. Does that make sense, Leon?
Yes, it does.
That was a lot of stuff, and that was honestly just kind of probably getting started of how we memorize. But that's some thoughts that I have, just right off the cuff.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it. I'm going to delete all my little notes. Okay. Well, I'm sure it's getting kind of late for you guys. Everyone probably is ready to eat some dinner or something, but any other comments or questions? Okay, cool. Well, you guys rule. Everyone played great today. Keep up the good work. Keep listening to what Mr. Sanchez tells you, and have a really wonderful semester.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You got it. I look forward. I'm going to try to come to as many of these as I can, so I'll hopefully be able to see you guys play for some of the other guests that are coming.
Yes, sir.
And take your time. Remember that thing that we talked about with Leon at the very beginning. It's your time when you're playing. So, take some breaths. Get comfortable and then play. I see that there's a question. When memorizing the piece, how do you practice focus? Like how to prevent distraction mistakes from Okay, wow. Do you guys have a second? Can I answer this question real quick?
I do.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because it's a really good question. I'm going to read it again. It's in the chat. So when memorizing a piece, how do you practice focus? Like how to prevent a distraction or mistake from interrupting a performance. So there was a really important word that was used there, I think. How do you practice focus? How do you practice it? And this, I think, this, just using that word to me makes me think that you're already on the right path. Because I think people think often about focus, like I should just be focused, and if I'm not focusing, then there's something wrong with me. My brain is not a good brain. I just don't focus well. Like we blame it on ourselves. But the reality is we have to practice focusing, just like we have to practice playing the guitar, just like we have to practice shooting free throws. I'm going to be able to say it. Free throws. Okay? We practice focus. So what I would say is just like you're going to practice a phrase, just like you're going to practice a chord, just like you're going to practice some tone, is practice just being in the moment when you do those things. Okay, so don't ever just let yourself practice arpeggios while you're watching TV or something. Now, believe me, I've done that before, and that's okay after you've had a full day of focused practice. But if that's all you do, it's not good. A couple of really simple things that I would say about focus when you practice is just get that dang phone out of the room. Just put it away. Put it in the other room. Put your computer away. If you are living with friends or family and they're watching TV, or maybe they're not watching TV, but the TV's just on, turn it off. Find a place for yourself that is really quiet and your own space if you can. And I realize that that's hard sometimes. And with my wife, and sometimes she'll be doing something and there's just nothing I can do. I can't march in there and you're doing. Often it's the other thing. I'm practicing and she's like trying to do something, and I'm sitting there practicing and she's going crazy. So it's a difficult thing to practice, but that's the other thing. And the one other thing I'll say about focus, and hopefully these are helpful things. I know it's this again, like memorization. This is a really big question. The other thing I'll say about focus is set time to practice. Just like you guys are in school, you go to school at this time. You eat lunch at this time. You go to sleep roughly at this time, and you wake up roughly at this time. All right? Make practice one of those things. Okay? Because your brain and your body and everything starts to get into a rhythm. And if you set a time, like, man, the hour before lunch, that's when I have time to practice. I'm going to do that every day that I can. If I have to go to the dentist, I have to go to the dentist. And I'm not going to be able to practice during that hour. But if I'm not going to the dentist, I'm practicing from 11 a.m. to noon. And then I eat lunch. And then I go about my day. I go to class, whatever else. Okay, that's the other thing I'll say about focus, is it really helps, for me at least, to schedule time. And the other thing I'll say is just, this is different for everybody, but for me, mornings are better. If I'm not playing guitar until 5 in the afternoon and I've already written a bunch of emails, I've already taught, I've already, watched a bunch of YouTube videos about some stupid thing, I'm kaput up here. Not so good at focusing. But if it's the morning and I've just had some coffee and some breakfast and I just go right to playing, and again, not everyone's schedule will allow for that, but if it does, that's when I can practice, and that's when I can be focused. All right? Again, that's just the beginning of the answer to this question, but hopefully that... actually, you know what? there's one little thing here. You said, like how to prevent a distraction or mistake from interrupting a performance. That's another sec, and I promise I'll keep this short because I'm sure all you guys are like ready to sign off. This is tricky, but just you got to just practice. Also practice just moving on. If you make a mistake during a performance, train yourself to smile instead of frown. Instead of being like, ah, you know, you say you're playing and you make a mistake, smile. But here's the deal: you have to do that when you're actually practicing, not just when you're performing. Because if you are practicing going, oh, dang it, I made a mistake. In your practice, when you perform, you're going to do that. Okay? So just let it go. And if anything, smile about it. You know, you can have a little memory and say, okay, I need to practice that section, but don't let it make you mad. Because here's the truth. Everyone makes mistakes when they perform. Lord knows I do. But even David Russell does. Everyone makes mistakes when they perform. And you just got to go through it. You got to keep going. Playing the guitar is hard. It is hard. And we're going to make a mistake. We can't let it bother us so much that it derails our performance. Okay, I'm gonna call it there so you guys can go eat dinner and work on homework or whatever you have to do. But you guys, it was a pleasure. Thank you for asking these great questions. Thank you for asking them. Sometimes people don't even ask questions, which is a shame, but you guys asked some great questions and everyone played really well. And yeah. Have a great one, guys.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Well, Paul, do you think you can send me this video?